Hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on this video about how bisexual and m-spec people should themselves to death. I know that language is a bit shocking, but actually, as we go through, I think you'll understand why I've chosen those words. So first of all, do you often find yourself thinking or speaking in terms of what you should do? And yes, I've put it in those. Do you sometimes find yourselves telling yourself how you should be feeling even? And then, are these thoughts actually helpful? So I'm gonna take a stab in the dark. It's not really a stab in the dark, but I'm gonna say you've answered no to that last one. So before we get properly started, I'd just like to clarify, because not everyone knows it, and that's perfectly fine. I didn't know this term until sometime last year. m-spec. Now, m-spec means multi-attraction spectrum, and it basically covers all of your sexual orientations that are not gay, lesbian, straight. So they encompass that multi-attraction part, the bisexuals, pansexuals, polysexuals, omnisexuals, and I believe I've missed some, but that's the area that you've got your bisexual plus umbrella. So m-spec basically just means that bisexual plus umbrella with all the other identities that are encompassed there. So now we've cleared that up, I will likely use bi and m-spec interchangeably. I will try to use them at the same time, because mainly to acknowledge that I do mean the wider scope here. I'm not just talking to the bisexual identifying people out there. So when we use shoulds, it is often an automatic negative thought, aka an and. Now, let's break that down a minute. Automatic, meaning you can't control it. These are the thoughts that just pop into your head or roll out of your mouth, and you've not even consciously thought about it. It's just there. Oh God, I really shouldn't be doing this. I should be picking the kids up. I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing the dishes. I shouldn't have, I shouldn't do, I shouldn't feel. So these are just automatic, they're just instantly there. Negative, yeah, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. These are not helpful. These are not positive thoughts. These are not helping you. You're not feeling any better for them. In fact, they're having the opposite effect. Think about it. When you're shoulding yourself, do you feel happy? No. Do you feel guilty and, you know, maybe a bit ashamed, or even just bad? Chances are, yeah, because it's negative. It's an automatic negative thought. So, I mean, to give you a prime example, I always fall short of these around Christmas time. Around Christmas time is terrible for me. I'm shoulding myself all over the place. In the build up and even during, I'm shoulding myself with the presents. So, oh my God, I should have got more thoughtful presents. I should have spent more. You know, it is primarily those two, and actually primarily the latter. I'm just there automatically. I should have spent more. I should have spent more. I should have spent more. And then the last two Christmases, I've been stood in the lounge and actually cried as I've apologized to my family that I haven't been able to spend as much on them compared to what I used to. That's a terrible place to be, isn't it? On Christmas Day. And then afterwards, after the day is done, and we've all had a lovely time, and I've got over my shoulding over presents, I go home, and by this point, I'm totally spent. I have no more energy. I have nothing left to give. All I am good for is curling up under a duvet and just flaking out. So it normally goes, walk through the door, just find a table, a space to put things. So I'll deal with that later, and then go and find a duvet. However, I'm there under this duvet thinking, oh my God, I should be putting those presents away. I should be finding homes for them. I should be dealing with the washing. I should be doing this. When actually, I'm spent. I'm done. There's nothing left to give. My cup is empty. And what would be helpful for me in those moments is to acknowledge that rest is what I need, and the tidying and everything can wait. Instead, I wind myself up with shoulds. You know, that's very typical monosexist, biphobic attitude of, well, it's just a phase. You'll grow out of it. Eventually, you'll pick a side. Well, that's awful when people say it. And, worse when you realize that they do actually mean it. And even worse still when it comes from within the LGBTQ+ community. But what happens if the m-spec person then internalizes that and is then telling themselves that they need to just pick a side? They need to just get over this phase and pick a side. That is when you get them shoulding themselves in these ways. I shouldn't feel like that. I shouldn't be attracted to them. I've got a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. I should just be happy with that. I shouldn't find the other sex to my partner attractive. And it breaks my heart. It really, really does, because so many of us are not are monogamous, or at least in monogamous relationships, and that's perfectly valid, and that's fine, and it's great, and if it works for you, then absolutely, carry on. But being monogamous or in a monogamous relationship doesn't change who you are. And telling yourself that you should be different because it makes other people feel better, because it preserves their worldview of what sexual attraction is and what's desirable. It hurts. It really hurts. And there's so much pain. There's so much pain that's entwined with all of this that, no, we need to do something about it. It's also possible that you develop thoughts around how you should behave, sometimes connected to what's already been mentioned with, not feeling like you should be able to be yourself, and so this can show up in different ways, and I think it's much more of a thing for men. I think women, we do have that sort of flexibility to dress and speak and just generally behave and interact with others in whichever way we please. There's just a bit more flexibility with all of that these days. Men, however, do seem to have a bit more of a problem, especially if they're a bit more effeminate, a bit more softly spoken, with certain likes and dislikes that are not your typical straight. Well, no, it's not even connected to sexual orientation. It's just what people infer from it. So I do think that shoulding around how you behave is typically an m-spec men thing. Yeah. So all of these shoulds are very damaging because they invalidate the person at their core. No, you cannot be like that because of this. You cannot be like that because of that. And it's more damaging because the person has internalized it, and they're there telling themselves, I should not, I cannot feel like this. I cannot be myself. If it's left unchallenged, then this can easily snowball, and you can get depressed and anxious. Relationships and social lives can suffer because you're constantly on edge, constantly watching what you're doing and saying and how you're interacting with people. And, you know, it's not uncommon for these kind of feelings to then result in things like self-harm. If you're not able to regulate your emotions particularly well, and you're there and you're living with all of these shoulds and all of this pressure and and the depression and anxiety that can come from it, then yeah. So it really can do so much damage. Really can. However, we've got 5 things that you can do to drop these should ants. So it really doesn't have to get to that dark place. Anyway, number 1 is become much more aware and mindful of your use of shoulds. So because ants are automatic and negative, we really do have to be aware of when they're popping up, because it's much easier to deal with them just after they've popped up, rather than say 10 minutes down the line when you've already snowballed a bit. When you do become conscious of having had a should ant, then basically just be curious and compassionate about the fact that it's happened. Okay, you cannot control whether they happen or not, at least not now. So it is so important just to be mindful, to be aware, and to be compassionate. Number 2 ties in quite nicely. Practice self-acceptance. So the nature of should ants is they are self-critical. They thrive off of it. So how do you combat that? Well, you start accepting yourself. This is where I'm going to go on about affirming and validating your own identity, because it's so important, so important. If you're being critical, if you're shoulding yourself about your identity, then you need to make a conscious effort to affirm it, to validate it. So, you know, spend time talking about your identity with other people and your experiences, their experiences. list 5 positive things about yourself. When it pops up, when the ant pops up, you've just become aware of it, you've accepted that it's there, you're not judging it. Write down 5 positive things about yourself, whether on paper or on your phone or computer, whatever you have to hand, but put it down that you can see it. So it's out of your head and you can see it. It will really help just sort of validate you a bit. And honestly, if you're struggling, it can include things such as, I'm working on accepting myself more. That is a positive thing. It's about you. It's therefore, it can go down. Okay. So number 3, speak with trusted, supportive people about your experiences. Now, here I am talking about partners, family members, friends who are supportive. But you could also be reaching out to a mental health professional who you know will be supportive. And mental health professionals come in different shapes and sizes: mental health coaches, counselors, therapists, psychologists, and the list goes on. The key to this one is the person you're talking to is supportive and accepting. Okay, and this just helps you to connect with another person, to get reassurance that you are identifying the ant appropriately, and that you can access some support. Very closely related to number 4 on the list, seek out other m-spec people. Seriously, talking to allies can be great. My current partner is an ally, and talking to him can be absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. There are other times though when he just doesn't quite get it, and that's just because his frame of reference is different. So this is when other m-spec people can really, really help, because you can share experiences, you can relate to each other. You may not have been through exactly the same, but you'll have been through similar to each other. And then with number 5, we've got use the internet. So the internet can be a great resource for learning about other people's experiences of life as an m-spec person. And I was tempted to combine this with number 4 because, yeah, there are similarities, but this one doesn't actually need you to have a conversation with them, because there's loads of information out there that actually, someone's created and then you're accessing after the fact, like videos on YouTube. There are some really great videos on YouTube, and websites and social media. These are all ways that you can learn about other people's experiences of life as an m-spec person while not actually talking to them. So yeah, it's an important distinction. Because of the lockdowns, Bi Pride UK have actually held their Bi-Fi festival online for the last 2 years. So those are all up on YouTube still. Anyone can access them at any time. Great resource, really. In fact, I will link to their YouTube channel because they have some great discussion panels, And frankly, they have some really good bi performers. So yeah, great one for just, you know, having that little party in your home. I must admit that I was there with my cocktails. Well, maybe not for the first ones, but certainly later on in the day, because I watched it as it was being broadcast, and I was there with my cocktails, having a bit of a dance in my seat. Anyway, yeah, great one. And there are other resources like the Still Bisexual website, which has various different personal accounts from a cross section of the community. So you've got Black people describing their experiences as a Black bisexual. You've got men, women, non-binary, I believe, are up on that site. It's got a good cross section. They do have Asians and everything. So it gives a nice. It's just a really good resource that I do point people in the direction of, because, you know, this shit's important. I will include the Still Bisexual link in the description as well. So yes, so these are important because it can actually help affirm your experiences and your identity by seeing the similarities in other people's lives and stories. So hopefully now you have a better idea, a better understanding of how shoulds are damaging for m-spec people, as well as how to tackle them in 5 simple steps. Please do like and subscribe, and yeah, you can find more content and updates on my website, Instagram and Facebook. All of these are linked in the description, so please check that out. And yeah, see you in the next video.